computer. And look who's with me today.
Rachel, what up?
Jade, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So, fill us in. Where have you been? We've not seen you in the UK for a few years.
Yeah.
So what's happening? You've moved to LA. What's new? What's happening?
What's new in my world? Well, we're coming to the UK, and I think you and I were just talking about this. I think it's Sittingbourne or Kent. I can't remember. So those of you know Lincoln Bryden, wherever his college is,
Yeah.
I forget where it is. He's going to kill me because he's just like, dude, you should know this. But the Metabolic Effect team is going to be in the UK the first week in May. I think it's the 8th through the 11th, whatever that weekend is. I think it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think that's what it is. And teaching everything there is to know about, metabolic nutrition and the new science of keto diets and anti-aging and some natural medicine stuff and just all the stuff that we do at Metabolic Effect. So that's the first thing. And I think this will be the 5th year in a row, I think, that we've been over. The first year that we were there was Blackpool, where I got to see you. I got to see you doing your thing at Blackpool. And I was just like, she's a badass. And yeah, so then every year after that, I think we did Blackpool 2 years. And you guys just got done with that, right?
Yeah, we were there last weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. All I remember about Blackpool is it's extremely cold, but the people were very warm and it was fun. So there's that. And I just moved out to Los Angeles. And the big thing with me was I just started jadeteta.com, different from metaboliceffect.com in 2016. So I've been doing that for about a year. And that taps into my sort of self-development type of stuff. Not a lot of people know this about me, but I'm a little bit of like a meathead philosopher. I'm very much into self-help, self-development, relationship stuff, and all that kind of stuff. And so I've sort of started doing a little bit more of that kind of stuff. I've always done that, by the way, but I think people are just now seeing that side of my expertise, because normally it was the metabolism guy. So now I'm doing high-end coaching, a lot of the self-development stuff. And I know most of us who are in this arena, especially if you reach any kind of level here, we're all into sort of success mindset and stuff like that. So it really covers a lot of that kind of stuff. And I guess the third thing is I'm working on probably the final Metabolic Effect book, which will be working title is going to be The Metabolic Edge, but it's really all about being the metabolic detective and, figuring out what works for you. We all have our loves and the things that we love to do. Like I'm a big meathead weightlifter, and I know you've kind of, gnashed your teeth in the realm of step and aerobics and all of that kind of stuff. And it really takes into account doing what we love, but also figuring out what gets results, both in nutrition and exercise. And so that's pretty much everything I've been up to. And then, of course, like you, just grinding like crazy and trying to, just get the word out still about Metabolic Effect, which is sort of my passion and love.
That's wonderful. Where is Metabolic Effect going in the US? We know Lincoln's doing great things here in the UK. It's in Europe. So kind of what's the plan for it in the US and Northern America?
Well, it's really interesting. So Metabolic Effect started out as a company that really the acronym ME, right? So, do what works for you, find and do what works for you. So what we initially did, and this is really interesting because I know in your world, I started as a boot camp. We started as a local boot camp in North Carolina, which is on the East Coast of the United States. Very different and very different politically and environmentally, and just, than where I am now in LA. And that part of Metabolic Effect has really sort of taken a back seat to more of our educational stuff, our online programs and things like that. And now we are considering doing a full-blown sort of Metabolic Effect University for professionals, which would be something that we would essentially really put out a lot of good quality information to certify professionals that are, both in the personal training realm, the group exercise realm, and the nutrition realm. And so we're really pushing that direction for Metabolic Effect, if anything. So the workout stuff, while we still do a lot of that, it's really taken a huge back seat. And so, so it's just a lot of switching and a little bit of an evolvement for Metabolic Effect compared to what it was maybe when you and I first were exposed to each other, which is, I think, going on 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And getting the message out there, Jade, is it all, I mean, you are very heavy on social media. If anybody doesn't follow Jade over on Instagram, you will see there's some great posts, really interesting stuff over there. And he's always training with no top on. What is that? Every time I look on Instagram stories, there you are on a rooftop with just your shorts on, Jade.
Wait, so let me tell you a secret. You can maybe tell me if this is true or not. But here's what's really interesting. And this is so funny because women always mention this to me, right? And part of what happened was I was like, okay, I'm going to launch the Jade Teta brand. And I know from talking to women that women really are not into shirtless guys and shirtless photos. Like when you talk to women, especially like on the dating sites and stuff like that, they're like, no shirtless photos. We don't want to see your abs. We don't want to see all that. And actually, it's more appealing to men, right? And so I wanted, because Metabolic Effect is more female oriented. I mean, it's just the nature of it. You know, it's like 70 to 80% female. My idea was to essentially have my Jade Teta brand be more about coaching men. And so I did a lot more of just training with my shirt off and just showing sort of a manly side of me versus the more professorial side of me. And it's funny because all the women mention that. They're just like, will you put your shirt on, please?
No. Well, with the time difference, I wake up in the morning and I'm scrubbed. Oh my God. I'm like, 5 a.m. here and you're on the rooftop with just your shorts on.
and you know what? I can do it in LA, but I think I've had enough women kind of laugh, and they get it and they laugh. But I always ask them, I said, so is that true? Is my assumption right? Because I think it is. Most women are like, yeah, it's nice, but it doesn't really do much for us. But it's more for the guys. Guys are more into sort of the hardcore training kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting experiment that I may give up on.
No, please keep going with that. And everyone watching, definitely check it out. So you mentioned dating and the dating sites. So kind of tell us a little bit about your new project, which is, I've been kind of reading about it and hearing about it. So tell us where you are with that.
Well, you know, so the interesting thing is I think most people who know me know, so my ex-wife, Jill Coleman, who we are very, very close and best friends. So we went through a separation and currently going through a separation and divorce. And that whole process is really tough, right? Because, you know, anyone who knows going through relationships are sort of the best of what we have as humans. And it can also be some of the worst of what we have as humans. And so I have been working in this field. A lot of people don't know this, but when I was back in medical school, I did a lot of couples counseling as well. And just always been fascinated. Ever since my first breakup, Rachel, that I went through when I was a teenager, I've just always been fascinated how relationships bring out the best in us and bring out the worst in us. And so after going through this with Jill, I was just like, you know, I really want to put out a program. The program's called Next Level Relationship, which is really about individuals, you know, a lot like you and I actually, who are sort of, you know, all about sort of growth, very much into our careers and, you know, kind of a situation where it's like, to me, relationships, romantic relationships especially, are the best growth enhancing things that you can have in your life. But if you're not careful, they can easily derail you and pull you off your game and off your focus. And we all know what that's like. And so I wanted a program that really addressed this sort of, I call it next level relationship, which is about getting together with people and not going into it like you complete me, but more that you grow me and you enhance me. And that's how we come together. So that program teaches you, it's kind of cool the way it's structured, but it takes you from meeting to dating to relationship and even to breakup. And then it has a whole sexual side of it too that talks about sex compatibility and all that. It's all based on research. Very, very cool program that sort of walks you through how you want to be thinking about being in a relationship to where you can grow and be grown by your significant other and vice versa. So it's actually very proud of it. I launched it for the first time, last month or 2 months ago, and the feedback has been fantastic on it. So it's currently not available now, but it's one of those things that I just love. And I think it hits to the heart of, and you know, you can tell me, I think it hits to the heart of when we do fitness and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, you know what happens? Oftentimes when I'm working one-on-one with someone, it comes down to, a lot of what it comes down to is feeling loved, feeling seen, feeling appreciated. This is such a huge part of who we are and why we do what we do. But not a lot of people we don't learn this shit in school. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to kind of take sort of the psychology approach and the research and my clinical experience and say, look, and here's the things that you want to be thinking about in your romantic relationships. So it was fun to do.
So it's not available right now, or it is available?
It's not available right now. I shut down the cart for a little while just to have the people go.
It sounds like we need it.
For those who are interested in this, though, and want to kind of get on the waiting list for it, all they need to do is go to jadeteta.com and get on my email list, and you'll be the first to know when it comes back around. And it should probably be coming back around in the summer.
Do you think that with your research, there was any kind of, do you think people that are in fitness and personal trainers and give a lot of themselves for their job and their career, do you think that this would be particularly helpful to them?
I think it definitely will, because that's me, right? And that's what happened with Jill and I. So a lot of the experience comes from the fact that, here's the way I look at it, right? We have, let's say you and me, Rachel, we're dating, okay? There's Rachel, there's Jade, right? And then there's Rachel Jade that is created in the middle, right? And so what ends up happening is there's three identities. There's you and there's me, and then there's you and I in what we create. And what happens is, so if you're a professional and a career woman like you, who's pushing, driving, giving so much of yourself to other places, what happens is you need to have something that gives you energy back. And this you, me in the middle, this third entity, can do that for you if it's designed the correct way and you do it consciously. But as you know, if I'm needy and I need more of Rachel and I need you around more and I need you to talk to me more and I need you to give to me, and I'm a little bit jealous that you're spending time with all these other people, then what happens, right? All of a sudden, that starts to drain you. And now your career starts to suffer as well. And this is essentially what this program is about. So yes, absolutely, especially for career people, we need to know how to be in relationships and vet our significant others to basically be like, no, Jade's not the guy for me, or, Rachel's not the girl for me, because this thing in the middle is not serving us both. And this is something that most people are not aware of, and we have to be able to manage our emotional resources, especially for the long run, because like you said, you get up in front of a group of people, you have to give all of your energy. And, what's funny about this, and I'd ask you, and any of the professionals who are listening, I think people who aren't professionals in this world don't realize that we might seem so extroverted and we might seem like we have energy for days, but in the end, when we go home, it can be almost just like, just don't freaking talk to me. And so especially with our romantic partnerships, we need to have someone that gets that in a way that allows us to kind of relax into that and recharge off of it, rather than coming home and then giving the same amount of energy and type of energy to our significant other. It's just not sustainable. And so a lot of us can't maintain relationships because of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, total sense. I'm living proof of it. I think you wrote the book for me, Jade.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us are, right? I think a lot of people who are you're a very success-driven career and you've had an amazing time doing this, affect a lot of people. But it's very normal as humans. You can't be everything to all people. You can't be the lover and the mentor and the coach and the wife and the person who, you can't be all of this and then be all that out there in the world too. And that's what I think that the problem is. It's funny, I talk to Jill about this all the time. Me and her are still, the best of friends. She's a powerhouse like you in terms of, sort of being out in the world. And she oftentimes says it's very difficult for her to find a romantic partner who is able to let her be that strong, independent, beautiful woman that she is and not feel somehow less than because of it. So she misses that about our relationship, because that's the one thing we had. I love a strong, independent woman who's like out there showing her power in the world. And she was saying a lot of guys don't, but this relationship actually teaches you, whether you're a guy or a girl, how to vet and find men and women who will be that for you, and also grow you in a different way. Because there's one thing about relationships we all know, I call it the law of dysfunction, which means it does not matter who you get in relationship with, you are going to run smack dab into their shit, right? You're going to run smack dab into their dysfunction. You have dysfunction. People might not know it, but Rachel's got dysfunction. I have dysfunction. And we, as partners, when we come together romantically, we have to deal with that eventually. The grass is not greener. It's just a different shade of dysfunction. And so Yeah, I love this stuff because I think it goes right to the heart of how we are in our career. I think it goes right to the heart of whether we are able to achieve health and fitness and make it easy. It is everything, but most people aren't able to manage it the way that we would like, right? So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I do think it's what we all sort of crave. In our quiet times, when we go home at the end of the night, we think to ourselves, I want to be loved, I want to be appreciated, I want good sex, I want passion, I want intimacy, I want these things as a human, and they can either serve us or take away from us. And so that's why I put this program together, exactly for people like you and me and anyone who's trying to manage being human and wanting that connection, that romantic connection, but also being a powerhouse and wanting to project and build and touch people outside of their relationships. And that's a hard thing to balance.
Jade, this is amazing. So was it really cathartic for you to create this program? Did it help you move forward and sort out your own emotions and feelings?
It definitely did. Yeah, I think that's, as you know, I think anyone who does creative pursuits, a lot of what we do, especially passion projects like this, is really about our own healing process as well. And to be honest, and I don't know if you do this too, Rachel, you can tell me whether you do this or not, but you know how, like, as a creator, like, there's just something you're super passionate about at one point, and it's like, and part of me felt like I had to get it done because I had all this information and I was missing the opportunity. Like, had I waited 2 years, it probably never would have gotten done. And so not only was it cathartic for me, but it's also like, okay, it's time and I got to just get it done. So a lot of people are like, why put it out now? Just because if I didn't put it out, it probably never would have gotten out. And I think a lot of times people who aren't in the creative zone, aren't creators, they don't really necessarily know that this is kind of how it is. Like for you, it's probably, you probably have a workout in your head. It's just like, oh, I'm super excited about this type of training and this way of doing things. I need to get this out quickly because oftentimes life doesn't wait for us.
Exactly. So you've got all this going on, Jade. So what do you do in your spare time? What do you do to rebalance you, to rejuvenate you, to relax? What else do you
know? Well, you know what I've been doing lately is I just got myself an infrared sauna.
Oh, I think I've seen it. I've seen it on your Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm spending a lot of time in that twice per day. I haven't been doing this a lot lately. I don't know why, but I typically walk a lot. And so like typically
in LA?
You'll see me walking all over Santa Monica. I live in Santa Monica, and I haven't been doing this for the last couple months. I don't know why, but typically I'm always walking. That's very cathartic for me. And I usually have these in listening to a book. So I read a ton. It's funny, Rachel, I'm one of these nerds. I'm sort of a meathead and an athletic type guy, but I also like quiet time, classical music, time in the sauna, time with books. So I spend a lot of time alone, and I like that. I like time with people, but I also need a lot of time alone. And so, yeah, a lot of alone time, a lot of training, a lot of research. Like, if my typical day, I wake up and I love, if I could have my favorite day, I would read research all day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then write a blog on it or something.
Okay, I love that. And what you listen to right now, podcast wise, who's doing it for you in your ears?
Well, you want to know, it's funny. I don't listen to you. It's funny. My biggest strength and my biggest weakness is I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what other people are doing. So I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, unfortunately. But I read a lot of books, a lot of books. So right now I'm listening to a book called The Art of the Good Life, which is a Stoic philosophy book. And I'm also reading two. I know it's 3 books at the same time, but I'm reading 2 books on keto. Just finished them, really. The keto diet. And so part of what I do with Metabolic Effect is I'm always up on the latest research with nutrition. And I haven't looked at the ketogenic diets. I don't know if you guys get a lot of this in the UK now. You are, right? A lot of people talking about keto
we get a lot of stuff that Tim Ferriss is doing and Don D'Agostino and the stuff that they're doing. So yeah, it's definitely gaining popularity. And whether or not it's for women or not, I don't know. But a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is more male orientated.
Yeah. And so what I'm doing now is I haven't looked at that stuff for about 5 years. And so now I'm back just getting up to date on the latest research on keto. And so you'll probably see a keto program coming out from me pretty soon. And, it's funny about that, by the way, women listening, right? There is a difference. We'll talk a little metabolism for a minute. The interesting thing about women is that being sort of the gender of reproduction, and by that I mean you carry the babies, right? Your physiology is far more stress sensitive
Yeah.
than the male physiology. And as a result of that, sometimes these keto-based diets and very low-carb diets and things like that can backfire on women. And so oftentimes we got to look for the Goldilocks effect. So whereas a man might be able to go, I'm going to go super low-carb and train like crazy, you know, a woman who does that may run into issues really quickly. She might lose menses, her libido might tank, she might start losing, you know, energy and focus. And so a lot of that with women needs to be talked about. And the funny thing is, and one of the things Metabolic Effect has, I think, brought to the table, at least I hope it has, is that we talk an awful lot about these differences because typically they're not talked about, right? It's just like, oh, men should be doing the same thing as women should be doing. And if you look at this stuff in depth and in a clinical practice, you see very clearly that women respond very differently to things like intermittent fasting and ketogenic diets and super high intensity interval training and all of that kind of stuff. And so they have to be a little bit more careful, especially as they go from, you know, sort of younger women to women who have kids to perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause. So most of what I teach, at least in the female realm, is really about those metabolic differences. So as I talk about ketogenic diets and things like that, I will talk an awful lot about females and how they do with that. Most women will end up in what I call the almost keto zone, which is more stressful. It's actually, it's more stressful than either not being in it or being in it. And most of them sort of fall into the zone and then wonder why do I feel like shit? Why is my menses gone? Why can't I train? So that's a lot of what I'll be talking about in terms of the metabolism stuff here soon with women and ketogenic diets and low carbs. And I'll be covering that at the UK event as well.
Brilliant. That's definitely well needed. I mean, we're seeing that here, you know, with a lot of girls that have gone very, very low carb have, you know, created years down the road so many problems, you know, infertility and all kinds of issues that it's brought on. So I think we're only just scratching the surface with that right now. We really are. So it'd be great to get your voice behind that, you know, and helping women understand that it's just not the same as the information that we're giving to guys.
Yeah. And you got to look at it as a woman. It's like, I look at it like the Goldilocks effect, right? It's not too much, not too little, just right. You need enough carbohydrates to keep your physiology moving, to keep cortisol down, but not too much to where you got too much insulin and too many of those issues. And so, you know, you seem like you manage this just fine. A lot of the girls who are kind of doing what you do, when I talk to them, you get right away. They're just like, yeah, I'm not really super low carb, but I'm also not eating anywhere near what most people will do. And they tend to naturally find this balance, which I think is interesting when you talk about people who have been successful with this stuff over the long run, especially as, you know, for men too, but especially as females get past 25. You know what I mean? Like, it's fairly easy as a 25 or, you know, 18 to 25-year-old female or male to do what you do. But once you get into your 30s and 40s and beyond, there's sort of a different approach that has to happen. And I would like to see that talked about more.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be good. So are you on the circuit in the US? Are you speaking? Are you doing conferences? How are you getting the education out there?
Yeah. Well, you know, so this will be an interesting thing to talk about. So I get offers to do this stuff all the time, and being the introvert that I am, and being the person that that I want to sit in LA and just read books and listen to classical music, I really don't like doing a lot of the live events. And so most of my teaching comes online. And I constantly go back and forth. Actually, my best friend Gary sitting over here next to me, he basically works with the company. He's kind of pushes me. We should do more of these. He's been kind of saying that for years, and I just am more resistant to it. You know what I mean? Just I don't like doing a lot of these talks. So unfortunately, right now, not a lot, and I don't know that I will, to be honest with you. It may end up, you know, it's kind of like this. It's some people love that stuff, and I know you do a lot of those things. It's cool. I like to follow you and see, oh, where's Rachel now? She's like bouncing all over the world. And for me, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm not really as into it, but that may or may not change. I don't know. Typically, when I go somewhere I want to go, like, I'll go somewhere for 2 weeks and write a book, and that's kind of how I like to do it. Or I've been doing a lot of Facebook Lives, you know, on Metabolic Effect and Jade Teta and that kind of thing. So I think the internet makes it less needed, you know, to jump around. But I do I do kind of vicariously live through you guys when I see like you're out there doing. I'm like, do I want to be doing this stuff or not? But
stay in LA.
yeah, I've never found for me that it's to be honest, I've never found for me that it's it pays great and it takes a lot of time. So it doesn't pay great. It takes a lot of time for me, and it doesn't seem to really enhance my message any more than just being up on social media a lot. So, but I'm probably wrong about that. So I don't know. I mean, it works for you, right? Like it's great for you. Like you that's how you get around.
I mean, UK is smaller. It's easy to travel around. It's difficult in the US. You've got to get on planes everywhere, and it's longer. It's a longer thing.
And Rachel, I've historically been terrified to fly.
Oh, really?
Yes, I've gotten over the fear just by flying more, but it's still a pain in the ass. I still don't like it, but at least I'm not afraid of it anymore. But that's part of the reason I didn't travel a lot.
I got it. And your brother and sister?
11 hours to you guys, by the way.
Say again?
It's 11 hours to you from LA. So that's a long flight.
It's not too bad. A couple of movies, get your head down. You can do it.
Yeah, I know you do it, no problem.
That's good. And your brother and sister-in-law, they are still heavily involved with ME?
Yes, they are. So the team here they run the clinic, the Metabolic Effect Clinic. So we started out with a boot camp and a clinic in North Carolina, and they still run the Metabolic Effect Clinic, and that is very successful. And it's successful enough that my brother runs that sort of full time, and then I run sort of the online stuff with Metabolic Effect. But they are still a big part of what we do. So we have a lot of people from all over the world, basically say, hey, I'd like to get, some help. And then they typically do consults with the clinic, Keone and Jillian. And for me, I typically don't do much of that because I'm inundated with building online programs and stuff like that. Although I have started taking a small amount of people again, so I take maybe, 5 to 10 people every month where I'll do consults. I've been doing that for the last 2 months.
Okay, cool. So Jade, you've got a lot of friends in the UK. I know you have because you've been here, several times. And whenever I do workshops for fitness professionals, they always mention you. They always mention your book and you, which is really good. Which is great. So where can everybody find you then online and come and say hi?
Yeah, so I have 2 websites. Probably jadeteta.com is the best one to go to, and that will introduce you to everything I do, the self-development stuff, as well as the nutrition. I call it, mind, muscle, metabolism. So it really gives you the metabolism piece, the fitness training stuff I do, and then the self-help, self-development stuff I do. And at Jade Teta on all the social media. So Instagram, I probably spend most of my time on Instagram. I don't know. You know how we all find sort of a venue we kind of like? I like Instagram just because it allows me to write every day. So I like to write something every day. And that also goes over to my at Jade Teta Facebook page. And then my company that I'm most well known for is metaboliceffect.com. And so those are the places to find me.
Where are you doing your Facebook Lives? Are you on your Jade Teta or your Metabolic
Effect?
Both.
Yeah, both. And actually, so lately I've been doing, it's Metabolic Effect, but I'll just go ahead and stream off of Jade Teta as well. So we're doing what I call Metabolism School and Craving School. Metabolism School is really about teaching people, teaching them advanced metabolism so that they can figure out what works for them. My idea is that if you know better, you're going to do better. And I know it's high-end science, but, people need to kind of understand this stuff. And so that's where we built our following. And, and then I just stream that on Jade Teta as well. We also do Craving School, which is really about, we have a whole supplement arm of what we do at Metabolic Effect. We have a Craving Cocoa and a protein shake as well. And we talk about using these foods and other foods like them, functional convenience foods. And we're not in the UK yet, but soon. Actually, we are probably going to be repping isogenics in the UK, which I know is shocking and upsetting to many people who are anti-MLM.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you guys a story about this. And so I was anti-MLM multi-level marketing for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And then I got introduced to isogenics, and I still didn't get involved, but I liked their products. And so I was just using their products. And I liked their protein shake so much that I actually designed our protein shake, Craving Cocoa, off of, the isogenics shake. Since it costs so much I've been working to try to get our products in the UK. It's such a headache that right now it's like, well, I'll probably just recommend people do isogenics because it's such a good product. And I don't really spend a whole lot of time trying to tell people they need to sell. I just like, hey, this is a great product, use it. And so that's the product I recommend in that regard, in the UK. So.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, Jade, I know you've got a busy day ahead, so I won't take any more of your time up. And I really appreciate it. It's been lovely to see you.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see you too. I love you to death, and I'll see you soon.
Bye, Jade.
Have a great day. Yep. Talk to you soon.